Hello everyone, I'm Jim Longworth and welcome to another edition of Triad Today. Coming up later on, our infamous roundtable gets together. We'll see what they have to say about a wide range of topics, but between then and now we have some great guests and important information coming your way. We'll talk about senior care, specifically the cost of assisted living and those kind of things. We'll tell you about a one-year anniversary for something called Venture Cafe, and we'll also tell you about an important education referendum. That's all coming up. But first, I want to turn our attention to a great organization that's been around for a long time. You probably know about them, but you don't know the volume and the scope of what they do, what they contribute to this country. But we've got them here now. Special guest for the first time. On my immediate right, Joshua Gold is here. He's President and CEO of Industries of the Blind. Next to him, and we welcome Darrell Wells. He's a veteran. We salute his service. He's also a material expediter at Industries of the Blind. And bringing up the rear, and I mean that affectionately, Richard, Richard Oliver is Director of Community Outreach and Government Relations. Welcome, gentlemen. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Joshua, I'm going to start with you. What is the mission of Industries of the Blind?
So Industries of the Blind's mission is to provide opportunities for employment and personal development for people who are blind or visually impaired to achieve greater independence.
Now, you're based out of Greensboro. I had a wonderful tour that you and Richard gave me one day, but I think people would be astonished to know some of the things. What are some of the products that you make?
Sure. So as you said, we're based in Greensboro. We were founded in 1933, and we've grown from a handful of employees to over 250 people that we employ today. We have three main product lines. The first is textile. So we produce Army combat uniforms, Army physical fitness pants, and military t-shirts. We have a product line for consumer products and janitorial supplies, so things like pens, clipboards, mops, and other cleaning supplies.
Right.
And then we have a distribution business where we are a third-party distributor for outside contracts.
Really? That's I didn't know about the third-party distribution thing. And of course, what you're saying is people can, in various private corporations, can buy products from you as well, not just the Army and the government.
They can, in that case, what they can do is they can use us to distribute their products. So other manufacturers, other vendors of equipment would come to us, and we act as a distributor where we ship product all over the world for other manufacturers and suppliers.
And I want to go to Richard for just a second. Richard, what accommodations are made for people who are blind in order for them to produce all these great products that you're doing?
So we use a lot of programmable equipment, specifically in our textile arena. We use a lot of programmable sewing machines. So we're really making accommodations for people who are blind. So we're buying sewing machines with computers on them. We're programming stitches. Then we're building the fixtures and building the templates. So now it becomes more about placing the piece in the right position and less about pushing the fabric under the needle.
Right. Darrell, you and I were talking before the show, and tell the folks at home, you served in what branch of the military?
United States Army, 82nd Airborne, Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
In the early 80s?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And do you have a sight problem right now?
Yes, I'm legally blind in both eyes. Sustained injury during the boxing with 82nd Airborne Division.
Here's something I want to ask, and Richard really suggested this. We were trading emails one day. I'm thinking, and Richard and I were thinking that here you were giving this service to your country, and now you're responsible for making the products that help the men that are serving this country. So you're still serving your country, and it's sort of a continuum of care, isn't it?
Certainly, I really feel that now that I'm not active duty, that I'm still able to serve, because knowing that our products and our services are reaching our troops out in the field, so I still feel that I'm really doing a great service, that they are getting competitive products, which reaches all of our customers' expectations.
And I'm telling the folks at home, I mean, they didn't ask me to say this, but I'm bragging on Darrell and Richard and Joshua and everybody, because you go through there as you tour the place. I was touring the place. The products have to be perfect, and they are perfect. I mean, they're things that their troops depend on. Very quickly, Joshua, before time gets away, sure. I'm assuming you're actively recruiting people who are blind to work?
So we are actively recruiting. We're always recruiting for good people who want to work. Now we're very excited about a new contract that we recently won for a set of fire retardant Army combat trousers.
Wow.
So we're actively recruiting for 20 or more people who fit our mission, who are blind, who want to work at our offices.
Making jobs available. And up on screen is a pin that I want you to see. It's a 50th anniversary pin, Richard. Very special. Something you guys have been making for a long time.
So we have been making that pin since 1968. We're making it today when we left the facility.
Yep.
I mean, we're making on average 5 million of those pins every single year, on top of some of the other products that we make. But this pin in particular is really an iconic pen.
It is. The troops have been using it for half a century. Up on screen also, industriesoftheblind.com. I hope you'll go to that, visit them, or 274-1591. Please go to the website. These guys do a great job for our country, and thanks for everything you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
We'll be right back on Triad Today, and I'm really excited about having this guest here. He hasn't been here for a while because he stays so busy doing so many great things, but we've got him now. On my right, Dr. Algie Gatewood is president of Alamance Community College. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you, Jim. It's great to be back.
You're looking good, and I know things are going well at the college, but I want to focus on some planning and some projects and things like that in our 5 minutes here if we can. And I understand that there's a lot of growth initiatives going on that maybe might take 10 years. It's a 10-year type thing. What kind of expansions and additions are you talking about, are you thinking about, and at what cost? Sort of bring me up to speed.
Sure, Jim. What we're doing is making sure that Alamance County, and of course those areas that are affected by what we do in terms of teaching and learning and education, workforce development, training, is ready for the future. And I will say that the future is here now. You know, most of the research we read is about the year 2020. Well, that's essentially here. And we want to build out our campus so that we can support growth in enrollment and have quality education that is commensurate with 21st century needs.
Yeah. So in other words, you're going to gear this toward to making sure that the people that graduate and get, leave Alamance Community College are going to have a good job, that it's all tied to sort of workforce development?
Absolutely. We want to make sure that our programs are aligned with the workforce needs of Alamance and surrounding counties, and to ensure that our students get the very best quality education so that when they go into the workplace, they're ready to make a difference. They're ready to make an impact on that company, wherever they're working, on day one. The company doesn't have to retrain them. We want them ready to go.
So in these improvements and things, are we talking about trying to spiff up some of the buildings that are there, or building new classrooms, or building, you don't have to be specific, but just in general?
Yeah, the spiffing up part, that's a small piece of what we're doing. We plan to build a new Life Science and Biotechnology Center of Excellence building. We will build a new public services, public safety training center.
Wow, that's important for the firemen and the policemen and people that want to go into public safety, right?
Yes, and there's a lot of growth opportunity there in terms of jobs, so we want to be on the cutting edge and on the front end of that.
Right. Now, did I read somewhere in an email that you or Ed sent to me about satellite facilities?
2 satellite locations, one in the eastern part of Alamance County and one in the western part of Alamance County. In the east, we'll focus on health delivery, healthcare type programs. It's a growing industry as well. In fact, growth in the healthcare industry eclipses all other career areas. So we have to ensure that our people are ready for that. And then on the west, business professional services, marketing, public relations, all those things that go around business, such as accounting. And it aligns very nicely with the industry that's in the western part of our county.
And makes it accessible to those people too. Final thing I want to cover is going back to this cost thing. I'm sorry, I wanted to go back to it. And that brings me to the fact that this is supposed to be, all of this great stuff would be funded by a bond. It's a $40 million bond package, and I believe it's going to be on the ballot in November. I guess my tough question to you is, what makes you think folks in Alamance County will vote for it?
Oh, I think the people in Alamance County are very clear on what the needs are in the 21st century, and I think they care about their sons and daughters and their neighbors and relatives being ready for the workforce. And it's all about economic development as much as it is about quality of life. We want a good quality of life. I'm from Alamance County.
Right.
That's where I live.
Yeah.
And I'm very interested in quality of life. I want to make sure that I'm living in a safe neighborhood and all those things. And I think the other people in the county realize that when people are working and investing in the economy, that's what makes us better.
And Dr. Gatewood, even if somebody says, well, wait a minute, I don't have anybody that goes to Alamance Community College right now in my life, but going back to your thing about police, fire training, the people that are going to be looking after us are training at Alamance,
right.
So everybody's invested. Hey, before I talk too much, let me go to this website. www.alamancecc.edu is a website. Please check out all the great things. And I know he can't say anything, but I want you to get out there and think about November and think about that bond. It's going to be great stuff. Thank you, Dr. Gatewood.
Thank you. Thank you
Appreciate it.
so much.
All right.
Is that?
We'll be right back after this. Triad Today. I'm always glad and we're fortunate we can get this guy to stop by and talk with us and educate us a little bit about senior care, and he's here today. My good friend, Mark Moretti. Of course, Mark is Vice President, Sales and Marketing for Ridge Care. Good to see you again, sir.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
Let's just remind folks who may have just moved into the area or missed a couple of our other shows very quickly in 10 or 15 seconds. Remind us what kinds of care, what levels of care does Ridge Care offer for seniors and where you're located?
So we're all throughout the Triad. We offer independent living with assisted living services. We offer assisted living, and we offer memory care.
And of course, you're expanding all over the area, for folks that might be moving to the East Coast and some of those places too. But you can go, we'll give you the website for Ridge Care later. You can check that out. Let's talk about the financial side of senior care. We haven't done that before. What resources exist to help pay for care if I have an aging loved one?
Well, it's an important question. People often are sticker shocked when they come in, and for good reason. The numbers can be staggering when you look at them just in isolation, but when you consider the fact that mom or dad is no longer going to be living at home, you're not dealing with all the utilities, the taxes, and all those kinds of things, it becomes a little more manageable. There are lots of resources available for folks. I'd say the best is long-term care. If you can buy it early, it's a great deal, but that's the key. You've got to buy it early. A lot of folks were fortunate enough to work for companies, particularly locally, who offered long-term care insurance as a benefit for them. And then for folks who are maybe a little more financially disadvantaged, there are Medicaid options. Now, not all assisted living and memory care communities allow folks to come in with Medicaid. That's more government funding. Some, however, will allow you to pay privately for a period and then spend down to Medicaid. So as you shop for an assisted living or a memory care community, you need to really be clear about their policy on spending down to Medicaid.
Get that clear up front because everybody's different.
That's right.
And we did skip over Medicare, I think. Now, just educate me on that.
Yeah.
Would Medicare have a blanket coverage to say, look, wherever you want to go, if you want to go to Ridge Care or wherever else, you're covered? Does that happen?
So that's surprising for a lot of folks. Medicare in North Carolina does not reimburse any of the costs for assisted living or memory care.
Now, I think I want to go back to a point that maybe expand on it a little bit when you said sticker shock, because I don't think a lot of us think about that who've had experience in your facilities and others too, and you have great facilities. But you think about when your mom and dad moves out of their house or apartment, and you have to figure in a lot of things, meals, transportation,
home care if they need medications or they're not able to take showers on their own anymore, you're going to have to bring somebody in, and those services get expensive quickly.
And just give me an idea of some of the types of staff that you have there, professionals and others, because that's also factored in. So give us a review for us.
So in all of our communities, care is overseen by a registered nurse, and then you have medication aides who are actually administering medications and certified nurse and assistants on staff. And these folks know what to look for. They aren't just checking off a box in terms of have we done this and have we done this. It's how is Mr. Smith doing today holistically? How's his mood? How's his attitude? Is he dizzy? Is he getting the right meds at the right time? So it's really being able to kind of chart over time this person's overall well-being, not just how they happen to be at any given moment.
All that professional care goes into the total cost. And
It
of
does.
course, you'll sit down with, if I want to sit down with you and say, okay, this is my aunt we're talking about, or here's my mom or grandmother, and you're going to go over all that stuff with me up front.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that at Ridge Care in particular, we're very big on transparency in pricing. Let's tell you upfront exactly what it's going to cost. We don't do a lot of a la carte pricing. You're not going to see your invoice from one month to the next jump. And so as you're shopping for an assisted living or memory care community, make sure that you understand how services are billed so that you can track exactly what expenses are going to be and you can model your loved one's money.
Before we lose time here, benefits for veterans and their spouses quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. There's veteran aid and attendance benefits for veterans who served during wartime, and those also could apply to their surviving spouses.
I want people to check this out. This is all important information for a lot of us in this sandwich generation as we care for folks of different ages. ridgecare.com is the website, and I'd like for you to go to that, find out all about this, and maybe set up a time to speak with the good folks there if you would. And I appreciate, Mark, all that you do.
You bet. Thanks.
All right, sir. We'll be right back. Today we have two great guests who have been here with us a few times before. We're always glad when we can grab them. They're so busy, but on my immediate right, our good friend David Mounts, Chairman and CEO of Inmar, of course, And next to him, the lovely Karen Barnes, Executive Director of Venture Cafe Winston-Salem. And welcome back, folks. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Jim.
David, I'm going to start with you. Venture Cafe just celebrated its one-year anniversary in Winston-Salem. So let's remind people very quickly, just quickly, what Venture Cafe is, because there's still a few people around that say, hey, I'm going to get a cup of coffee at the cafe. That's not what we're, although there might be coffee there.
There is
but that's
coffee.
There's very good
yes.
coffee.
Remind us what it is and why it's so significant.
Yeah, so first of all, it's special for Winston-Salem because we're one of only 6 cities in the world that have currently qualified to have Venture Cafe. And Venture Cafe is the place that anyone who's interested in innovation or entrepreneurship who wants to be able to come to an environment every single Thursday and get a chance to mingle and meet other people who are interested and involved in those areas and get high quality free education about how to go about and be involved in those types of endeavors can show up on a Thursday night and begin the process.
I think it's great. Karen, since you were last on the show, Venture Cafe moved into a new space, right?
We did.
Tell me about that, and tell me how the venture itself has been received over the first year.
Sure. So in February, we moved into our permanent space in Bailey Power Plant, which if you haven't been to that space, it is truly transformational for not only the innovation quarter, but really for the whole city. So our events are still attracting about 150 to 200 people a week.
Wow.
When we look at the numbers over the year, we have attracted over 3,000 distinct individuals, 7,500 visits, literally from Cape Hatteras to Asheville. And we are, you know, one of the things that I am the proudest about is we are really building a diverse audience, and we actually just got recognized with a big award for building social capital here in the Triad.
I think that's great. David, why do you think the community has been so responsive to Venture Cafe?
Well, going back to our history, you know, and the Moravians and their endeavors, innovation's in our DNA.
Well, yeah, I didn't think about that.
It really is. It's in our DNA, and we have gone through many renaissances, and we've reinvented ourselves as a community many times before. And so we know how to go about doing this. And so once you start getting people together and you start talking about and creating an environment where people can be supported by the community, and you have places like the Innovation Quarter and Venture Cafe for them to gather, things start to happen.
Karen, what's coming up in year 2? You want to give us a preview?
Absolutely. So I always tell people I actually prefer year 2 of any endeavor because the first year you're just kind of figuring out, you know, what the heck you're doing.
Right.
So year 2, we're really looking forward to working on what I call the 2 faces of Venture Cafe. The public face are the Thursday gatherings, Thursday from 5 to 8, obviously free to anybody to come. And that's where we're really building community, we're exploring topics. We're putting together new theme nights from cybersecurity, we're looking at biotechnology, life sciences. We also have energy, environment, and sustainability coming up in June as well. But the less visible face of Venture Cafe is programs like our new corporate Captains of Innovation program, where we are helping to match corporates with startups. We're helping local corporations gain a foothold in the innovation quarter and get connected throughout the ecosystem. We're also working with other organizations, entrepreneurial support organizations in the Triad to build some alignment, some more regional thinking.
David, we have about a minute left. Sum up for us who's going to benefit from all this and any other thoughts you have.
Well, everyone can innovate, so it doesn't matter whether you're a startup, you're in an established corporation, nonprofit, government. You need to get involved in the innovation ecosystem because we're at a time in the way that technology is evolving that every one of us needs to be involved in these areas. And so there's an opportunity, but in particular, I think the time is really right now for the larger corporations with an established ecosystem and such a strong energy of innovators and investors and the ecosystem thriving so well. It's a chance to get your company into consortia with others to create new products and new ideas that will strengthen your company. And the data shows that new products, new innovation, new growth are all linked together.
It's exciting, and I want to put up some web addresses here. VentureCafe, winstonsalem.org, of course, the main one I want you to know. Also, innovationquarter.com, and please go to inmar.com and see what these great folks are up to. Great public servants, they, at Inmar. Thank you all for doing this.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Jim.
Jim.
And mark on your calendar for Thursdays, 5 to 8 p.m. We'll be right back. Back now on Triad Today, almost time for the roundtable. I have a few things I want to say first. On a sad note, a friend of mine and somebody that was a childhood hero of mine passed away a few days ago, Clint Walker, who starred in the Cheyenne show in 1950s. He did movies like The Dirty Dozen, whatever. Fine gentleman in real life, and he will be missed. He was 90 years old, just shy of his 91st birthday, Clint Walker. On a happier note, I want to do a shout out and salute to SFW, a regional marketing company based in Greensboro. All of us talk about, hey, let's do this and let's get healthy and do that. They went out during Bike to Work week and the whole staff went out and actually biked to work. So I say congratulations on that. They do a lot of good community stuff too. On a programming note, I hope you'll tune in Sunday night, this Sunday night, 8 o'clock on My 48 only. 8 o'clock, and that's for our special with the Reverend Jesse Jackson, so I hope you won't miss that. And in fact, I write about it in this week's Yes Weekly. Pick up a copy, but I'm not writing about marijuana. It says marijuana on the cover, but it's Jesse Jackson on the inside. Now, speaking of somebody that is just more powerful than drugs, is the beautiful author and public speaker Carol Andrews is here filling in for Ogie. Pick up her book. It's still available on Amazon, From Author to Entrepreneur. Hope you will get that. And next to her is the chairman of the county commissioners, a friend of mine for 100 years, Dave Plyler. Next to him is His Honor, the mayor of High Point, Jay Wagner. And Carol, you may not know this, but Dave is writing a tell-all about Jay that's going to compete with your book.
I just need Ogie to get well.
Yeah, that's right. Wish him
Because
well
we'll
on
all
that.
be in trouble when you start writing the tell-alls.
All right, that's right. All right, guys and gals, let's start on a serious topic. We had another mass school shooting, this one in Texas. There are a lot of angles we can cover this from. I'm going to jump to this one. Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick is catching a little bit of flack because he proposes that every school should only have one entrance for students so that the SROs can better protect the school. Good idea, bad idea? Should our local schools adopt that policy? What do you think, Ms. Andrews?
I think every now and then we do need a study, and we need to study areas where they don't have school shootings, but they have as big a schools as we do, and we need to talk to each other. Because if we keep blaming one thing or the other, we never find a solution.
That's a good idea. David?
Keep thinking of one way in, one way out in a fire. It's not a good idea.
Well, couldn't you rig it, though, where you can exit in that situation, but you can't enter except through one?
Sometimes you cannot do things like that at the spur of the moment.
Jay?
Yeah, I think it would be difficult to have one entrance and exit. It'd be kind of like going through security at the airport. You know, I would hate to think about how early the kids would have to get there to get through security.
Right. So y'all are somewhat against that then. Former President Obama's education secretary, Arnie Duncan, right, I think his name, is calling on all parents. This is radical. He's calling on all parents to keep their kids out of school until new gun laws are passed. An actual boycott of schools. Don't go to school until some new gun laws are passed. Is a national school boycott a good idea or a bad idea, Carol?
Terrible. I don't think you keep children home from school. I think we figure out a way to keep them safe while they're at school, whether it's college, elementary school, high school, wherever, but we need to educate them. An uneducated population is not a safe population.
Right. Well, that's a good thought. I mean, you can't get educated if you're at home. I guess you could. You could be homeschooled technically, but that'd be a huge boycott. David?
My scenario is, if you do that, they'll never see the first day of school in kindergarten until they're 50.
Because they're not going to pass it all.
No.
Mayor?
Yeah, I don't think you use kids as a political tool to try to get gun control.
You don't even think it's practical anyway, right?
No, it's just not. I mean, we have to educate our kids, and we have to. I agree with Carol. You have to do it in a way that's safe. You have to figure out how to make them safe.
All right. During last week's teachers rally in Raleigh, we all support teachers. The head of the North Carolina Education Association was given a speech and urged teachers who were there to vote for Democrats this fall. Now, I don't care what party you're in, but do you have a problem with injecting politics into a rally for teachers who are trying to get higher pay? Ms. Andrews?
I think it changes the conversation. I think that you have just as many teachers who are Republicans as are Democrats. You got to keep the conversation open.
David?
Reality is, that's politics. The NCAA is politicizing this. The state's politicizing it. Even counties do it. So you're never going to get away from that. Accept it and do the best you can.
Jay?
Yeah, the rally itself was political. To say that it wasn't is denying reality. And you know, everybody knows which political party is generally behind that sort of thing when it comes to teachers. So,
And for the record, the Republicans have already put in the budget a 6% pay increase, and the Democrats are wanting an 8%. So it's not like we're way apart. And yet, yeah, you're right. We sort of know where everybody stands. Thanks to an expose by CNN, Uber is now having to come clean about the number of sexual assaults that their drivers have committed against women riding alone. Should Uber now require that only females can drive women who are riding alone. Carol?
No, passengers need to request who they want to drive them. Uber needs to do better vetting of its employees.
Mr. Plyley?
You know, I always think of unusual things. In this case, once upon a time in a land far, far away.
Yeah.
And then you finish it, but it's not going to happen.
Jay?
Yeah, no, you can't do that. People have to be able to make a living, and if that company needs to do whatever they need to do to provide security, then they need to do that.
The U.S. Supreme Court now says that sports gambling is legal and that each state can decide if it wants to allow betting on sports. Would you like to see North Carolina allow legalized sports gambling, Ms. Andrews?
We have legalized gambling if you go to Cherokee.
Sure, and we
So
have a
I
lottery
don't,
too.
I don't know.
David?
Glad you asked me that question because I very much would like to see the General Assembly give Forsyth County the opportunity to have pari-mutuel betting at Tanglewood.
That would be interesting for the steeplechases. Yeah, Jay?
3-to-1 odds that they probably do it.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I think you've just made an illegal bill right here on the show. And finally, guys and gals, a new study by Virgin Atlantic Airlines says that most people have heightened emotions while flying, and that includes crying easily at the in-flight movie. Guys and gals, have you ever cried on an airplane? And if so, what was the reason? Carol?
I'm either asleep or talking. So no.
You don't cry?
I haven't, no.
Dave, have you cried on an airplane?
I've never cried. I've never seen an in-flight movie, so I don't have a problem with it.
Mayor?
No, I don't recall ever crying on an airplane.
And, any of you emotional on airplanes?
No, not really.
What a fun group.
I know.
I guess-
We're heartless.
I cry when I see the bill from the airline company about
Well,
the
that's
effect.
true.
Yeah.
Cry when you find out what
That's,
seat you're in.
Yeah, that's all the time we have, and I thank Carol again for standing in for Ogie Overman, who's still recuperating home, and so that's about all the time. Oh, except for this. It was recently reported that some species of tree frogs only get to go to the bathroom once every 8 months.
Run that by me again.
Yeah, I guess that's why so many frogs croak. See, that's a colloquialism.
Oh.
It's a colloquialism. It can mean you're bad, Dave.
You jumped right past us on
Yeah,
that.
you're bad, Dave. For all of us here at Triad Today, I'm Jim Longworth. We're going to go do something. I don't know.